Hey guys, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity. This is going to be on behalf of StarCastTV. This is once again on Lemon, the insane map that it is. Bottom left-hand corner, we have Shuttle starting as the white Protoss, although it looks blue with that glowing beta nexus. Upper left-hand corner, we have Ssak as the purple Terran. One feature I did not realize on this map is probably out of necessity. You have the Caldera Crystal Formation blockading the other spawns, by the way, so that this double gas is a little bit more cut off. And my assumption is with that, it might make it, and also with the mineral locations, I'm betting that it makes it impossible to build at these additional locations, unless you're distance mining. But as a result of that, that makes this a very difficult Protoss map. Because yeah, you can take your third here at the 9 o'clock or at the 12 o'clock, but otherwise, like, the middle of the map's it. And then you're out of resources. So Terran can easily grab 3. It's a little bit more difficult for Protoss to grab additional bases and play that stay economically ahead. Plus, you've got the very claustrophobic main. So, I don't know. I feel like this might just be a little bit more of a challenging map for Protoss at large. Difficult for Terran to build on, challenging for Protoss after that. And granted, I haven't seen a ton of matches on this, but it is, I don't know, it feels like it's a bit Terran favored. Haven't seen any quick Reaver pay off thus far, and we'll see if Shuttle is true to his name and builds Shuttles mid-game with that early Reaver attack. I'm looking for a Protoss just to straight up do it. In the meantime, he's going to open up with a 12 Nexus. I think we're seeing our way for a 14 command center or 13 command center as well from Ssak. Probe making its way out. Looks like it's going to scout towards the right initially, and there is another command center being built, but interior to the base, allowing it to be a little bit safer. So it'll be double production of the SCVs in the main. Looks like that probe actually opting, so after taking a kind of end around route, is going to make its way to the top left. Barracks also in construction, but it shouldn't be able to stop this probe. Actually could even get a gas steal if it wanted to, although I don't know how kind of odd gas steal timing, and granted it's a second gas, but could be impactful nevertheless. Probe is making its way back across, all sorts of SCV cluttering the way, and now that supply depot blocking it in. Let's see if, I'm curious if it's going to happen. It's not a huge impact is the thing, but could be clever. So yeah, Probe is now trapped in with these SCVs, so just going to migrate its way around, try to be frustrating as it possibly can. We do have, looks like all 3 SCV and gas to follow it up. That is, however, with that early scout, allowing Shuttle to be a little bit more precise with his tech play, so skipping the second gateway, getting that cybernetic score instead. I really want to see him steal that gas. I don't know that he's going to, though. He's acting like he might. Pushing away from that. Factory being constructed. Probe assaulting that SCV in turn. Single Marine has been constructed and lifted off, but SCV is trying to block that ramp, but not able to, so the probe escapes. And what stories that probe has to tell when it makes its way home. What a hero. Second gas now being grabbed by Shuttle. First Dragoon being constructed. Keep in mind, Ssak does not have a scout opposite direction, so isn't entirely sure what he's up against. Is going to re-land that barracks and wait for that factory to plant. One thing as another option as a continuation on this map, but no, we are going to see a skip of range and a robo. So this time we are going to see early game Shuttle Reaver play, and we'll see if it is, how effective it will end up being. Marine checking that 9 o'clock base, just making sure it wasn't a quick base grab, making his way across. I don't think he's going to be able to get additional scouting information. SCV making his way top right. This Marine's just going to sacrifice himself, really, to get the scout on that natural expansion to guarantee that it's up. This is potentially what's going to happen here. Looks like we do see movement towards that third, and I'm wondering if this is to... Ooh, that was a nice body block of that Marine into the corner. I think he still ended up seeing the corner of that Nexus, however. Now range being upgraded, robotics facility being finished, pylon being dropped on the interior 6 o'clock location, and a supply depot out in no man's land. For Ssak, maybe just like realizing, okay, I need to build this, let's find some territory to do so. Double comsat station, double armory behind this as well. So finding territory out in the middle of nowhere to continue building buildings land. First siege tank out. Siege tank just about finished, dropping a slurry of comsats. Another disadvantage is with that comsat, there's not a lot of territory you need to... I mean, you can just, yeah, comsat the natural, comsat the main. You got everything you need to see. Probe hanging out the 9 o'clock. There is a pylon bottom right as well. Kind of scouting out. I'm wondering if they... I'm also curious if the players know that these additional expansions are in fact blockaded for the long term. It's kind of another curiosity I have. Range being upgraded, but first Reaver on the way. Siege tanks making their way out to the low ground. Engineering bay being constructed with a second factory. So +1 weapons, +1 armor to start. This command center going to lift off and just float its way to the natural expansion rather than constructing one on site. Yeah, SCV just hanging out bottom right. I wonder if they know about this, because I think that is a permanent fixture. Such an odd map. I just have to assume that they do. First Reaver is out. Do we see shuttle? We do not see shuttle speed as of yet, but scooping up potentially to make its way and get some harass done. Very claustrophobic main. Here's the thing, if he can drop and get some decent time on these armories, these are so bunched up that they could quickly be taken down, and that would be absolutely devastating. Stargate being dropped before even the third. Never mind, third's going to be dropped alongside. So Stargate in the corner being dropped, and the 3 o'clock base being grabbed by Shuttle. So trying to play it economically greedy and let his Reaver shuttle harass potentially keep Ssak back on the defense. Some shots there from the low ground. Don't quite get the turret. So does survive. Still, there's a lot of space and more turrets that need to be dropped. A Goliath out, 2 Goliaths out as well. And the fleet beacon dropped alongside the additional Stargate. So we're seeing something similar to what we saw Snow do in his match versus Rush on Lemon as well. Starport floating out, science facility being dropped to get that +2 weapons very rapidly. If Goliaths get constructed alongside this, they might have a decent shot in sizable numbers against those carriers. Third base just about halfway finished. And the shuttle scooting around the exterior, maybe wanting to just go dive towards the main. Again, I don't see shuttle speed upgraded, so I don't know that it would survive very long. It looks like the second Stargate was canceled and 2 additional gateways have been plopped down instead. So more of a, never mind, the Stargate there in the main, that's been spotted and is blinking. So now Ssak knows what he's up against. This is going to be 4 factories total. 5th factory now being dropped. 6 factories being dropped. So he should have plenty of troops to deal with this, particularly because this Nexus is coming on very late, which means there's not going to be a lot of troops. And this is just a big investment in tech. So I don't know that this is going to be saturated in time to just get the raw amount of troops out for Shuttle. So despite the big supply differences we have right this second, expect a massive shift very, very quickly. +1 weapons, +1 armor finished. Observer cleared out, but all of those Goliaths took an initial hit on the furthest range. Engineering bay doing some spotting. And keep in mind that a lot of the supply is in these carriers that are not yet out in the field and have yet to build interceptors. So kind of off the field. Ssak slowly slotting forward. This does feel a little bit... So this feels maybe too slow, too late, actually. Shuttle does have a decent worker lead. More Dragoons starting to group up. I just don't know that he has a sufficient army. So right now just trying to buy some time as the Goliath count grows. Some Vultures actually going to be joining this attack grouping. So what do we have here? We've got 6 Dragoons, 2 Zealots to try to deal with all of this mech. And really just needs to buy time. Dragoon taking big shots to the face, the Observer being pushed back as well. That Observer huge in opening up potential Reaver shots. And we've already got 2 carriers out here someplace. I'm not sure where they've maneuvered to right this second. But more in construction. There they are. 3rd Stargate's been dropped. Very brave on Shuttle's part. And he's positioning to grab the 6 o'clock location. So he's just assuming that Ssak is just not going to have the time to push into him. Shuttle continues to have that supply lead. That 3 o'clock base is well saturated now. Good amount of Goliaths out. Keep in mind the weapons upgrades were really, really pushed. So this is going to be very, very fast +2 weapons, +2 armor for Ssak. Vultures have found their way towards the natural, doing a little bit of harass, but he needs to get a move on. And honestly, he's playing it as though he slowly wants to make his way to the 9 o'clock, which isn't the play when you've got a slew of factories and carriers being constructed. So honestly, I feel like he's just gone too slow. And that carrier fleet is already just about to hit 6, with more on the way. 4 Stargates now down. As Vulture's able to sneak into the 6 o'clock, looks like there was a decent amount of mines to force a mine drag across the Dragoons, interrupting that 6 o'clock base construction. But regardless, this is 8 siege tanks, a control group of Goliaths versus a whole lot of carriers shortly. A sizable economy and a lot else. 10 supply lead for Shuttle, not exactly where you want to be. The ground trooping's fanning out towards the right. This is kind of no man's land. So those Goliaths could be a big problem. Vultures sweeping out, planting mines to maybe stage an attack at the 3 o'clock, but the rest of the troops moving right into the natural expansion. As Dragoons are trying to clear mines to the opposite corner, Goliaths just diving straight in. Going to be able to wipe out a pylon and the support bay, and right now, Shuttle's troops are at the 3 o'clock, as nearly all of the siege tanks are sieging right at the natural, so Nexus is going to get sacked. Now swinging around to maybe cut off reinforcements, but potentially too little too late. And finally, the 7 carriers fanning out, the Goliaths out of position, regrouping. Looks like the Goliaths are going to be cut off. The Nexus is gone at the natural, so this is putting Shuttle to 2 bases, so it is going to be 2 base versus 2 base from here on out. Still has a sizable supply lead. Dragoon's able to stymie a little bit of that reinforcing army, so Ssak, after taking out that natural expansion, just going to go ahead and back off. Grabbing it looks like that 12 o'clock base, although at a bit of a staggered location. Siege tanks easily going to be able to clean up that Reaver and the rest of those reinforcements. Level 2 weapons, level 2 armor, their +3 weapons now being constructed. 2 Dragoons have slipped through the lines. I don't know that they're going to check that 12 o'clock base to disrupt everything, though. And a huge carrier fleet, though, has been staged. We got 10 carriers out. They are going to be very pinned back, though, to try to defend Shuttle's holdings. 2 siege tanks making their way to the north to clear out those Dragoons just in case they were going to be trouble. Initial carriers wiping out that engineering bay rapidly. Goliaths looking to engage. They do have the upgrade lead. +2 weapons on the interceptors, but +2 weapons on those Goliaths, which means they can swat those interceptors out of the air. Finding that crystal formation in the north. That Nexus trying to be grabbed at the 6 o'clock. Natural expansion Nexus trying to be re-grabbed, and the Goliaths engaging the interceptors in the air. So looks like nearly a full control group of carriers sitting between the natural expansion and the 6 o'clock. Well, Ssak moving out to the 3 o'clock to wipe out everything here, and there's just not... It would be dangerous. It's a dangerous journey for those carriers, and they're slow to make their way that direction. Plus, they might get pinned out by the Goliaths. Ssak, realizing this, is going to crash down with those Goliaths towards the natural to guarantee that this is going to be a kill. So leaving the siege tanks there, moving all of his anti-air and a single siege tank up otherwise. 1 carrier heavily damaged, getting caught out by one of these Goliaths, but trying to abuse the terrain to pick away a little bit at a time to keep that Goliath count low and manageable. 3 o'clock base has been sacrificed for the effort. The probe's getting annihilated there as well. So now that 6 o'clock base is online, that natural expansion's online, but Shuttle's in the red, is even on supply at this stage. And Ssak has taken that 12 o'clock base, and he could very easily expand to the 9 o'clock if he wants. The carrier's starting to push forward, realizing they need to take the offensive. But while they're away, they've got to be enough of a threat to make sure that Ssak doesn't wipe out the 6 o'clock, that natural expansion, or the main. Goliath's diving in. The siege tanks ignoring the carriers. They can't do anything there anyway. Sieging up to go ahead and annihilate that 6 o'clock location, while those carriers are away at that 9. So engaging the Goliath wholesale while that Nexus is getting absolutely lambasted. There are enough Goliaths where it looks like, well, there's so many carriers, I don't think they can just sit back and engage the interceptors and have a lot of success, especially over this terrain. But this is pinning the carriers back. That 6 o'clock location's been wiped out. So Shuttle, once again, down to just 2 bases, his main and his natural, versus the 3 bases of Ssak. And Ssak can go ahead and grab whatever he wants. Goliath's backing off momentarily. As those siege tanks moving into the natural, once again, the carriers plunging that direction to try to create some sort of defense. Huge amounts of Goliath staged in between. And those siege tanks can just unsiege and exit at this stage and potentially starve his opponent out. Shuttle once again in the red from losing Nexus. Nexus? I think that is the plural. Siege tank's going to get wiped out behind this. Supply lead for Ssak, though. +3 weapons is now upgraded as well. And now Shuttle, with his 32 workers, needs to actually move out and go for some sort of killing blow against his opponent. And there are a slew of Goliaths between here and there. Siege tanks, however, are getting picked away at. And there are some Dragoons to maybe deal with these Goliaths otherwise. One carrier being focus fired, trying to mix it up. The Goliaths being split in 2. Some of the Goliaths focus firing one of the carriers in the grouping. It looks like it just might fall. Shuttle trying to micro it back, but not in time. It gets obliterated. And now the Dragoons are left surrounding the Goliaths. Another carrier gets obliterated. But Shuttle's done a really good job of cutting into that Goliath count to open up these carriers to where they might be able to take a stab at the main and just have an overwhelming presence. Supply lead for Shuttle. Siege tank wiped out. 4 Goliaths and a handful of turrets now at the main to defend. It's got to be pure Goliath now to try to keep these carriers back. However, Shuttle needs to hurry up and make something happen. While that was happening, some vultures swept in back to the natural expansion, wiped out some more units. So it's very likely just going to be the carriers here. It looks like a Dragoon has managed to slip to the 12 o'clock location, has 12 kills on SCVs there to at least get some counter-economic disruption. Dragoon's trying to clear out to open up mining there, while the carriers are moving across towards the 12 o'clock base, and in a sudden swing of events, with an overwhelming amount of carriers, the 12 o'clock is wiped out. Potentially giving Shuttle an advantage here. More Goliaths making the way out. And Ssak GG's. He doesn't have enough to deal with the carrier fleet. Fell economically behind. What a great play there by Shuttle to come back in it. Wiped out the Goliath fleet. There just wasn't enough to keep up with the carrier output. Reestablish that natural expansion and pulls the match. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Crazy one. Thank you for listening.